Hey, good morning. And just running a little late. I just saw the time. I apologize. So I don't know if anybody was really waiting, but I don't like being late. But anyway, good morning. Let's get started here. Welcome to Level Yourself Up, where it's not about perfection but progress. I'm your host, John Budd, and I just want to share with you what I've learned in tech this week. And ooh, let's not do that. Uh, yeah, what's going on there? Oh, I know. I'm sharing my wrong screen. That's why. The beauties of. Let's see if I can do this. Well, I apologize. Good thing. Display. Let's change this monitor to this one. There we go. So we'll see how this goes. All right. So sorry about that. I thought I was trying to get all caught up here and get things scheduled. I kind of had a little more planned for this demo, so that's what I'm working on and trying to get. That's why I'm running a little late, to be honest. But anyhow, thanks for coming in. And like I said, this is John Benham, your host with Level Yourself Up. And this week is what I've been learning with AI. And so I'm excited because this week has been really good for me in many different levels. One of them I want to share is I've been trying to think how to use AI. And in our environment, I'm a little hesitant to like bring in a true AI agent into our network. And then also, if I'm not there, I want somebody else to be able to run these. So I got to thinking about we're really dependent upon Excel, and I've written some Python scripts, and they work great. But this week, I decided to streamline a process that has several Excel files open, and I can share that I made a menu thing using auto hotkey years ago, and I actually used AI to update that. And it's kind of like a little checkboard. You just click each button, it opens the files. But I want to do that within Excel, and I want to show you. Um, I want to show you the power of using AI and the right prompting. And even if you feel like you don't know what's going on with AI, when you get in here, I'm going to show you some scripts that it helped me write scripts. So that's what's the beauty about this is that if you don't know, you can ask it to tell you and show you. So let's get started with that. Um, So I think this week I'll just show you something simple that was updated and drag this over here and see if we can't go to the screen now. Yeah, so this week I have, let's see if I can move this over for you. So I had an update, put level yourself up here, and then last week it had mission control up here. I just spoke into Jarvis and asked him to spin up Thomas. So we'll get to that here in a second. But and Thomas is basically my coding agent, and he went and changed this here. Um, so in this, basically we have three agents. Um, you got me, and then Jarvis, which is the main agent that controls everything, and then Thomas. So these are names I've made up more than anything. I use Thomas in recognition of our son, and I thought it would be a nice way to just incorporate him into this. So those names are really just different. And I guess I can say in the background of OpenClaw, I can assign what model of API I want Thomas exclusively talking to or ability to use others. So like Jarvis has the ability to use different um, AI models based on his task. Now I'm refining that and working that down so things go a little better. And what I mean by that is just to kind of reduce the cost and keep it cheaper. So you want to use a really for the coding, maybe you want to use a little higher proficient model, where other models you can use a lower end model. Um, and then I asked, and I thought this was cool. I asked Jarvis yesterday to create slides for today's show, helping you understand how OpenClaw itself works. Now, there was one revision, and I'll share that with you in a moment. Um, let me find. Yeah, here it is. So I think this is pretty cool. So he did this all on his own. Um, I asked him to maybe explain the process because I think some of the feedback I got was people really didn't understand the process. And if you're outside what this is coming, you don't really understand. So uh, maybe I should have had to add into this slide. So you have your AI models. We're talking about ChatGPT. You know, you got Anthropic. There's Grok, and Perplexity, and you got all these other models. There's tons more. Now, a lot of times people just go to the web interface, but you can access them on the back side. And OpenClaw kind of uses different models for different things. Now, it's getting real powerful, and you'll see that Anthropic has their desktop app and Codex does as well. And you're going to see these pretty soon. They'll start moving your mouse, especially I think for the Apple products. You can get on a Mac Mini and they will actually move the mouse and be like you were there in front of it. I think if we want to talk about security issues, my problem with that is they would have the same access that you have, and that goes back to why I don't want to. First of all, if you work in a business, find out their policy, but you don't want it to just go and pull data from everything you have access to. There has been some reports, and I've not investigated to see if it's true, but there's been some reports that a guy told it to scan this production database and it deleted all the data. It is that powerful. And I could see that doing it because, for example, when I told Jarvis to update the um, mission control over here, I wanted it just to say mission control up here and um, change this here. Though I did tell it that in the prompt, I did not give it the detail not to change it everywhere else. So these AIs can make assumptions and they make mistakes. So you have to put guardrails. So like one of the problems I had early on was the AI or Jarvis, um, get this back up here. It it automatically assumes things. So I had it change some files and it changed the core file that you plug in all your API keys, what models do you use, and then it rewrote that. So I wrote with the help of AI what they call a red line file. And basically it's the guardrails. You can't do this, you can't do that. And I probably tightened it too tight, but I would rather err on being too tight and slowly give it permissions than it go and wipe out stuff. That's the other reason You install it, and I've got it actually physically installed on a computer over here to the side. And sorry, I had a text message pop up that distracted me. Um, so I put it on this computer side because it only has access to what's on this computer. And what I did do is I have another little Raspberry Pi that basically it's my backup. I sectioned off just a part of the hard drive partition just so it has access to it. And then with the Raspberry Pi allows me to have access from my phone or anywhere. So if I need it to, I can through my phone tell it to write the file to that shared folder. I can review it and then give it permission to execute it. So those are some of the precautions I set up. It also can't through firewalls. I've set up that it can't access other parts of my um, network. Um, Now it's not going to go rogue and do something, um, but if you give it a command and you don't have good guidelines, good guardrails set up, it could do things that you don't want it to. But the beauty of this is, um, just realized, and my is my sound not working. Hello, hello. Hmm, well, well, I don't know if I have audio. What is that? Wouldn't that be a pooper? Hmm. Let me see what I can test here since nobody's watching. We'll just kind of pause because I don't want to do all this and not. Let's see if I can. Apologize. I've not had any problems with audio the last few lives. Um, all right, we'll see if. All right, great. Okay, my apologies. So it is working. Um, I am so sorry. But my meter over here is not flashing, so that concerned me. I do have. So anyway, where was I? So anyway, you got to set up these red lines, these guardrails, and then what you'll see is as AI is progressing. I know that I was looking at Codex, that's OpenAI. They are automatically starting to do some red line stuff. So that's protecting the user And so it will get better over time. And I think that is the thing when you're out here at the front of the line, so to speak, there are errors, there's things that can happen. And listen, I am not the AI expert. I am just trying to teach you what I've been doing and what I've been learning, and I'm trying to get more proficient at it, showing you. So, with that said, let's get on with this. So, um, I grabbed the wrong, shrink me down here. All right. So, and so what I asked it to just make this, and so this is what's powerful. I just asked it to make pictures for the slideshow. I originally did some PowerPoint, and I had some problems, so I just told it to make pictures. It did a great job. So this is just kind of the high level, and then we'll walk through the technical behind the scenes and the memory uses. What makes it useful is that it does remember. Um, so kind of as just a simple flow, I'll send it a message, whether it's be on the user interface or you can set up Telegram. There's other methods, but those are the most popular ones. OpenClaw routes it to the agent, which is Jarvis. Jarvis loads the context and he makes sure he understands the request. And then it sends that to the AI model. And that depends on what I was talking about before, which model you're using. And then it sees if there's any tools that are needed and would use it. So, like to build this, I originally asked it in the prompt was I was going to go live on YouTube. I wanted to explain this to you guys how it worked. And it used Python to build some of this and it structured it out into the text message. And then I basically said, okay, build that. And then it built the final reply. And then it sent it to me. And then we refined it. Um, so it's not like he just answers and it loads it in the context, it queries the model, it verifies the tools needed, then it sends back a more polished answer. Now, the truth is, some of these OpenAI and Anthropic, they're doing the same type of thing, and they are, all this is kind of competition for each other. So, kind of a more technical. If you get into this, you're going to see that there's a message. I send the message, and it gets to it. So it looks at the runtime rules, permissions attached, what does and don't, and then OpenClaw has its own what they call a soul and user and memory file. So basically, the soul is it's just a bunch of text of how it's supposed to operate, how it's supposed to respond to me. Um, and then the user is me. And so it's a whole file about me. And then it has its memory. So as it does things, for example, I'm working out some bugs. I think as long as you're working with any of this thing, like OpenClaw, there's Hermes, they're all going to have quirks and things. So you got to work on them and to be self-improving. And so it'll clarify the task, it prompts the package, and then it returns it to the AI model. It does run through the shell and file loop, and it gets an answer. Then it routes it back to the Telegram or any other, and then it unloads the memory projects file may need to be updated. So there's a little bit of circular um, thing that happened back and forth just so it remembers. And this is still at a pretty high level. This is just more the same. Just to explain kind of just what I said. The model. So I think this is kind of the model matters, but the system around the model is what make Jarvis useful. So I think that's true because if you don't have the right system, just like us, if we don't have the right system in our lives, whether it's a workout, whether it's just being grateful and how we respond, we all have systems. We all have routines that we do. And if we don't have them established well, when we do fall, we do fail, then they won't improve. So I think that's the biggest thing we can take away right now, that we have to look at our own personal systems and our own setups in life. Because if we don't have these systems and routines set up, then we will fail. If we don't have a good exercise program, we don't have good eating patterns. If we don't choose to eat, it's not. For me, one of the things I am working on as a goal is my health, not just losing weight, but it's my health. And so it's not enough just to exercise. You have to eat right. And my problem is I like all the junk and sweet stuff, so I know I need to cut out some breads and some of the pastas and the sweets. It's just the way it is. And so until I break that system and gets better, then um, that's one of my hangups, to be honest. And that's one thing I am working on to change that system. Like today, I'm already thinking about what I want to do for lunch, and I'm kind of this is the system for me, right? Is I have a pattern in the window I want to eat in, and I need to get myself, because if you look at our brain chemistry, we need to restructure our neural pathways so that we can think logically, and that helps us. I shouldn't say think logically, but if we want to change the way we think, we have to change those pathways in which the brain operates in, or we fall back in habits. Have you ever know that, kind of like the Bible says, the thing I want to do, I don't do, and the things I don't want to do is what I do. And it's kind of that thing, until we break that cycle, break that habit, we are always going to be in that same loop. And so we got to break out of that loop. We got to start being the person we want to be, start doing those actions to be that person. Then we can start being that person. Now, it's not fakery. It's not um, wishful thinking. But let's look at it this way. If I have a food addiction, and so I have to start thinking like a person that doesn't have a problem, right? And so I look at what other people are eating, and I'm like, that's how I need to eat. So I'm starting to realize what I need to eat consistently. It's not the one junk meal, but it's that consistency that matters. It's repetition. It's what we do every day that starts matter in improving ourselves. It's not the ones and two slips and falls. It's the overall repetition. And the same is true back to this AI model. The more it refines itself, the more it learns and understands, it will improve. And I think this is my next step. And why I want to share with you what I've learned this week is because if we don't take these opportunities and learn to use AI, there's this fear that jobs are going away. Well, jobs probably are going away. The types of jobs are going away. But what we have to do is learn to shift. It's kind of like before the internet, before a computer, everything was done on paper, right? And back then, there was slower transition. But with this day and age we live in, the transition is going to be much faster. It's amazing the updates these AIs are getting. Just everything I may tell you today in 2 3 weeks could change, because it is moving so fast. And if we don't get on board now and start understanding how to use it, and so that's why I'm going to start kind of transition to this second half to show you what you can do. And this is going to be very basic level. Like I said, we use a lot of Excel. So I decided to show you in Excel. I'm going to try I can't show you. I'm going to treat them, I tried to treat my customers or my clients' data as private as possible. And I'm going to show you some things. So I made some mock files up, and I'm hoping to be able to use those mock files and some of the scripts that I used. I'm going to just swap them out so I don't necessarily show you the real data. But I hope you learn from this that you can use it. So let me kind of see where I'm at here. So I think I want where to start. So I did. So I created this test file, and it'll actually open up. But I am going to share this with you as well. Let me start this. Uh, just drag it over here, and that's what I need. No worries. So try and get this as big as possible here. Maybe it'll help. All right. So basically, and this is the beauty of it. I asked it, the AI. So let me see if I can bring that over. You know what? We'll go through that in a second. But I asked it to help me. I told it I have a prompt, and I told it the three file names, and I said, help me build a prompt. And this is a good prompt. I think when I'm live, I get in a hurry and realize I need to prepare more for these lives. So this is the prompt: act as an Excel VBA automation expert. So you're telling the AI, this is how I want you to act. So if you're going to put a prompt in there about health, so maybe say act as a health expert. Now you'll get some warnings because they put guardrails on there. They don't want people getting medical advice from them. So, but you could put in there, act like a expert car mechanic and that type of stuff. Help me troubleshoot this. I want to create a macro enabled Excel dashboard that helps me open 3 specific Excel files from the path I provide. Here's a requirement: create a button for each file, create one master button that opens all file. Before opening the file, check to see if it's already open. And then before the file opens, open only the exact file path provided. Do not open the wrong or older files that may be in that directory or file path. Show the clear message if the file cannot be found. Add a simple error handling. Keep the code beginner friendly. Explain where to paste it. Here's the 3 file paths. And then give me a checklist. So that is the basic. So let's open this up. Um, okay, I'm getting there. Oh, no worries. All right. So if I copy that, act as, okay. All right. So So I just pasted that in. We'll see, it's thinking. It might take a while. Yeah. So here's the code. I mean, you don't have to know this, but here's what's neat. So what I'm going to do is just slide this back over. Let me open up Excel, this test file I made. And so it tells you to press Alt 11, Alt F11, which opens up the VB code. Now you might have to go enable this if it's not already on, but you're going to hit insert up here and module, and then all you have to do is go to the very top, um, and remember all that script it pasted out, and I just simply pasted it in here. So here's the code, and then down at the bottom there was a little bit of instructions down here. Yeah. Okay, so that's it. Then I like to hit save. So this is just in a test file. And so now if I come up here, oh, yes, oh, it does exist. What are you thinking? Well, I can still see it. There's always glitches in these lives, but so be it. And this is part of, some of these are going to be a little longer just to kind of run through and for you to learn. And I've got a lot of learning to do too. It doesn't like the file layout, file save, but I'm going to try and run it without saving it. So you can come up here to create demo buttons, and I'm going to say run. All right, so it created these buttons. You see that? Now I do have this file open, so let me close it. That's this one, and it might prompt me to save, close file, which is funny because that was in the same folder as that. So, all right, so we're just going to click this file, and that's all it was to open that. So, and now think about that. That could be any button. So you could give instructions for somebody to go through and load these files and do something. And where I like to work at is in small chunks. So what I'm going to do is open up this file. Then I'll probably in this one have another macro that would go do something in that file. This one will open up this here. So it's just a simple test file, nothing fancy. This one was a winger. Oh, it did work. It just brought it up over here. So I just told it to open up the mission control. So that worked. Now I close them all. Let's see if it does this. We'll open all three. No, it does. So now it opened up all three. It still opens up over here in this window, but it opened up all the files again. So that's there. So all the demos opened up. So that's a real simple thing that you can do, and you can get more um, automated. Let's see. So I'm just gonna minimize this. Now I was gonna show you one more thing that I kind of had prepped that I thought this was cool. I did this before the, I don't even know what's showing right now. So I kind of did this before. I asked it, so I told her, build me a prompt. So now this is where I just asked it to do something, which I think is pretty powerful in a sense that uh, and get this up here for you. So now this one I haven't done at all. It says build me a prompt that would go get stock prices for 3 different stocks, and let's put it into Excel and with the past 30 days of data using a free API. So it did all of this. And then at the end, I realized it was going to ask me for an API key, and I didn't want to go do that. So I said, can we get the data somewhere for free? And then it said we could use this to download. So then it created this live prompt. So here's the prompt, right? Now you'll notice it already has the stock tickers up here. And so we're just going to copy this prompt and in this situation, paste it right into here and hit enter. And then it's going to think. Just keep your mind open. You could do this for anything. I think you could also tell it, I want to compare prices online. I know some people that go have AI go get the coupon. Now, some of this you may have to have the paid version. And, me and the friend was talking that, it pays for itself if you buy a lot online, just going to get the coupons because it goes finds the coupons and it pays for this service. Um, if you buy a lot online. So anyway, out of good habit, you may not understand what all this is saying, but we can run through it super quick. Basically, these dims just create this ticker to be a string, and the string holds a value, and then dims I as a long variable, and dims WS as the worksheet name, and the next row as a long integer, I think it is. And then here's the stock tickers. It just puts them in line. This is a for next loop, so it's going to process this ticker message, and you'll see this will create probably a pop-up. Here's the range it's going to go get and put it into Excel. The ticker is a string. So this is just dimming more variables again and different methods. So I'm not going to get all that. It's getting the URL. It's going to go get the stock ticker. You'd have to Google what this means. I'm going to know from experience, I think it's just getting the handler that goes and gets all this stuff, I think. Um, anyway, so everything kind of, I don't see anything there. So malicious. So I'm going to copy that. Just drag this over here for now. And let's see if I can't bring up file one, bring it over here and hit Alt F11 again, right? And then um, oh, that's going to get a little confusing. Let's close this for now, and we'll just tell that not to save. And I think for this example, we'll just do a brand new sheet. Yeah, I just want a new worksheet. And then Alt F11, and then going to insert a module. A module is basically where all the scripts sit, and you paste that in there, and then hit save. And it's going to ask her to save, and I'm just going to say, and then overwrite that. Stock. Oh, I have to tell it to be a macro file if you're going to save it. So now, if I come up here and back to my top, let's see if I can. How do I shrink this down a little bit? And now you're going to see create stock button, update stock prices. So this is the first one. So like, let's just do APL, and I don't know, we'll just do MST and TSLA. Well, see, now this is, and these things happen, and this is what I wanted to show you. You're going to have these glitches along the way, and this is just part of, especially this type of stuff. Something broke, and so um, and so it didn't update. And so in this situation, I would just come back to the AI, and we may run out a little time here. And the what I chuckle about is the AI warned me that this was not good to do it on live. But I think this is just part of it. I had some growing pains as well um, on some of the other automations that I had, because it doesn't work out of the box. And I think that we need to. Um, so I'm just going to return in here that. Let me see if I can bring this over. Come on. And I can just say, update, but ask for all three stock. So what I've done, what I have seen and I don't often like is that sometimes it'll go through all this thing, then it'll say, okay, here's a better method. Because I can get in a hurry and want to go grab this copy right up here and copy all this. And don't do it till it's finished, by the way. Change stock buttons, test with this. All right. So we'll just copy this. We're going to go back to the Excel sheet here, and I'm just doing a Control A and paste. So I just erased everything and put things back and minimize that. And let's do this, and we might get an error here. So let's see if we can't just delete this sheet. And let's just rerun. See, it does require an API key, right? So here's the other thing. You can just keep digging. So I'm just going to use a snipping tool and snip this text and do copy. And this is where it takes a little patience. Now I'm just doing it on the stock, and you got to bring back up this window, and I can say, I got this here. So it's probably going to tell me that I need to come back and get a API key. Yeah. So there's a good example of a kind of a catch, is that I told it don't use an API key, right? And I didn't catch that it was going to want to use an API key. But at any rate, so I think it's done. Yeah. So let's go back here and click OK there. It's going to thing there. And there again, we're going to come here and go Control A, paste. And I think this is, it's part of it. I mean, it's going to get better and better. And I'm going to delete this sheet again. And I think this is where it's good to have backup copies of the Excel sheet you're working on, or any file for that matter. And I probably could have streamlined that prompt to not have the button. It would just go get it. So there you go now. So that's not too bad. So I think that's kind of cool that I went and got that. And then so I guess let me move this over. So it did go and get everything. And then if we come over here and run this button again, I don't know many stocks off the top of my head, but I think is it Ford? And well, it's just not coming to my head. My goodness, that's horrible. I know them. So I got it wrong, but here's the Ford. So you can look that up. And so, but that's it. We're been live for about 50 minutes. I know this isn't this live. If you watch all this, I appreciate you watching all this. I know that my goal here, my goal here is that you think about this and learn to use AI to help you build. And I think the average person will be able to do far more than they think they can if they open up their minds, not afraid to try some things and do things. The whole AI logo that I posted online, that was AI generated. I know people that's doing that all the time. So, if you just want some pictures, that's getting real popular and powerful. But I think where the real rubber hits the road is that when working people can take these tools and apply it to their jobs, then this helps the automation. This isn't getting into letting it process, look for trends, look for cycles, and help in that area because that's a whole nother level. But just start off doing these simple automations. If you have something you do every day or once a week that you got to just basically go somewhere, copy the data, put it somewhere else, whether it's in a file or an Excel, that's easy operations that you can simply um, remove that copy and paste, whether it be through a Python script or through Excel. There's many different ways. And if you're not sure how to do that, then you just ask the API what's the best method. Maybe tell I don't have those tools available. Um, I mean, it can rewrite the whole website if you wanted. I mean, I had Jarvis write that mission control, but it really prompted the AI. Um, I think I may have used GPT 5.4. It could have been Anthropic. I don't remember, but it created all that. And there was another task I just did, and I actually am using a Maria database, and it's writing the script. It's taking just a repetitive task, and I just run a Python script, and it cleans up the data in Excel because the way the Excel is formatted. Um, it just won't go into the Access database, and then the Access database is hanging because it's getting so big. So I created this other Maria database, and so my goal is to migrate everything into this Maria database, and I'm going to. Right now, I'm double dipping. So what I mean by that is I am mainly doing it still, and then letting the automation do it. And when the data comes out the same, which I double check, it's I can trust it. And so the biggest thing you can do is take the time. It does take longer to build these out than really doing it, but it's like training an employee. And once you get it automated, one, especially if you plan for it, then anybody can do it, or we can have AI do it. And then, as time progresses, I I'll be able to write a script and go run all the macros. If our organization allows me to run a real AI, Copilot. We do have Copilot, but it's not powerful enough, or it's kind of janky. I think but I might be able to get AI Copilot to run some of these macros once they're written. My experience is Copilot is not good enough to make these scripts. Um, it's maybe good for summarizing emails and such. All right. So if you stuck around this long, I really appreciate you watching this content. I want to encourage you to improve your life, to level yourself up. And to level yourself up means you have to put in the work, you have to grow. And I hope this twist that I'm kind of shifting in is not just mindset, though I love mindset principality, principles. And I think that we do have to break down um, things so they're simpler. This is where the rubber hits the road, that when we take those principles and apply it to other things, because whether you're working with mindset, you're working on character development, your health, this type of Excel work, it's all the same structure. You just have to break down the problem, find the solution, and work the problem. I know it's not always that easy, but we can make things far less complicated if we have good problem solving skills, think about and reason, and use the tools available. It'll help you. All right. I hope this was helpful to you. And if you stuck around this long again, thank you very much. God bless you. Give me a follow and like if you like this content. If you would like me to make improvements on this, leave a comment below. Um, if you think these lives need to be shorter, I could have probably diced this up in half. Maybe I should do that. I'll think about that as well. But I would love some positive feedback. Love to think about that. I'm trying to think how to integrate this into my audio podcast. I think I'm going to have a couple more episodes coming out, so you'll see that here as well. All right. God bless, my friends. Take care.